All right, we're rolling. Happy Friday. Um, I don't feel like recording, editing anything today, so we're streaming. Why not? So first thing I'm doing, why not jump in? I'm going over some of my Readwise highlights. If you're not familiar with Readwise, you've got to try it out, especially if you are an avid reader, you like to highlight, you read on a Kindle, iPad. The biggest trick that I've done is downloading Readwise, connecting it to my Kindle account, and oh, look at this. Why you want to do that? Why is it blurry? I connect it to my Kindle account, and then there we go. And every time I highlight something on the Kindle, it automatically syncs to Readwise. So there's a few other options too that you can do. One that I started doing. So yesterday, they've done a good job on mobile where you can take a picture on in your book and highlight it directly, or you can actually highlight the sections of your book, which I'm just going to start doing. And when you highlight something in your book, it'll recognize the off color, it'll recognize the lighter color, and then it will sync for you. You just have to label what book it is. So let's just go through it. So new book I'm reading, Breathe, Rickson Gracie, super awesome. The Gracie family with jiu-jitsu, legendary. I'm new to this. This is very interesting to me. We have an awesome gym and jiu-jitsu community here in South Louisiana. We've got a great training facility, wrestling program. Shout out to Coach Sheridan Moran, Delta Training in Thibodaux. And my plan is for my son to get into it, right? Very simple. So basically, I'm learning best way I can. And yeah, so I started with this book. Pretty crazy story how it all kind of started and went down. But one thing he talked about, his dad. Everything's about his dad right now. His dad was the trainer. His dad was the fighter. And you would think, they were almost breeding this family of fighters and warriors. Yet at the same time, the dad was cool. He didn't push it. There was absolute mandatory training, but it wasn't like you have to do this. It was because it's good for you. I know it's good for you. You know that I'm a good instructor. I'm going to make it easy for you to understand. So I want to help you. And that's what he did. So pretty cool. But yeah, I'm just starting this book. It's been good. So again, when you roll through the highlights, like this is my daily review. You can decide how many you want to listen to, what it is for the day. I'll just roll through it like this. I want to keep it. And you can also kind of figure out how often you want to hear it. So like Victory Favors the Fearless. My brand is Fearless Athletes. So everything about fear versus faith, this book is awesome. So trying to please critics will only hold you back from reaching true potential. It's good. But it's not like mindset altering, right? So I'll favorite it, but then I don't want to see it for a while. Okay, The Standard, Ben Newman. Can't talk enough about Ben. So I started my training with Ben. Here's how the whole story went down. I write about this all the time. So Ben, I decided that I wanted to be a mental performance coach. I said, I want to learn the game. I want to learn performance coaching. I want to learn what it takes. I want to learn how you empower the athletes, how you empower people you work with, because Ben has a variety of clientele. And he's from the business world, but has a big sports background. And then, of course, transition to sports. So I said, all right, time out. I want to work with football players. Football is my passion. Football is my favorite sport. It's what I played. So I said, who did Nick Saban hire? Who did Nick Saban hire to be his performance coach for Alabama? And sure enough, Ben Newman pops up. So I started diving into the content. He's got some awesome content. Shout out to Tyler Kirk, Legacy Media. They do an incredible job of putting out their content, everything they're trying to build. He's awesome. So I think I even ordered a couple books, Uncommon Leadership and everything. And so my son's name is Benjamin. So on a random Friday, our mantra, or Ben's mantra for Fridays, is champions create distance on Fridays, right? So I was into it. I was invested into Ben, invested into what he was coaching. So I put on my Instagram story, hey, at Continued Fight, Ben Chasson creates distance on Fridays. And I tagged him. And that was probably around 6 a.m. And when I got to work at 8 a.m., I was teaching at the time. So I went to class 2 hours. And then on my off period, got back to my phone and I looked at my phone, and Ben Newman had reposted it, shared my story, liked it, commented on it, slid up and DM me, and then left a voice message. I was like, what is going on here? Like a long voice message. Like, hey Grant, thanks for the post. Shout out to your Ben. He's awesome. He was like 1 year old at the time. And he said, look, we're launching Coaches to Coaches next week. Have you heard about it? I said, no. He said, we launch a cohort every few months, every quarter or so. And I want you to be a part of it. I want to look at your profile. I see that you're a coach. I want you to be a part of this. And I was like, okay, I'm in. I'll make it work. Financially, I'll figure it out. And it was incredible. It was just, I didn't know if it was like recordings, like a course, whatever. No, Ben Newman showed up every week, ready to go, giving us what we need to coach elite performers. And it hit me. Now, my first certification was Brian Cain, and I need to have more of his highlights on here. I need to download a lot more of his books and content. But the thing what I always told people was that Brian gave me the foundation and the system, no doubt. He showed me how to structure this coaching process more than just motivation and mindset statements. It was definitely more geared towards a structured approach. And you take it and use what works, and which I do now. But Ben amplified that by 10x, 100x, just how to really dive into the mindset and change performance and to show discipline. So I highlighted this part here because this is the power of knowing, from his book, of knowing who you are coaching, dealing with, working with. And Ben's story here was that he was flustered. He was upset. He went into his boss's office. He said, he ranted for 10 minutes. Okay. And waiting for a response from his boss John said, what would your mother want you to do right now? And it just struck him. John knew his story. He knew his mother's story. His mother unfortunately passed away. She was 38 years old when Ben was about to turn 8. Rare blood disorder. And he paused. He said, I'm going to dial the phone, which is kind of like their just way of get back to work. So he had an hour-long meeting booked with his boss, John, and John, after 3 minutes, saved 57 minutes of his life by just knowing Ben, knowing what to deliver, knowing how to reset his mindset. So Ben went back to work, and he took that with him. He said, you got to know who you are, and you got to have relationships and understand people's background. And, in the workplace and coaching the executives, just be positive and just implement ways to bring out the best in people. And before you know it, things just take off. It compounds, it builds. So, love me some Ben Newman. Definitely keep that. Don't let one mistake ruin the game. Andrew Simpson has been the standard for the books that I'm giving to my youth athletes. So when you think about when we start making mistakes in games and competition and routines, instead of attacking yourself, examine what needs work. Was the timing off? Was the focus in the wrong place? Did you rush the rep? Okay. I can tell you a full story. In fact, the next time I do a live stream, I'm going to give you the full rundown of how and why I failed as a college quarterback and what I could have done differently to change that and what would have happened. Okay. Ultimately, yeah, I probably would have transferred because I wasn't a D1 pocket passing quarterback, and my ego stopped me from seeing that. But I'll give you the whole layout of how that went down next time. Andrew, great job. Next one, don't let one mistake ruin the game. But you can absolutely control how quickly you notice and respond to it. Ask yourself, what does my spiral look like mentally, physically, emotionally? Okay, think about what a spiral is when you're spiraling out of control. What are my go-to thoughts or body language when I'm stuck? What do I feel in my body when I'm not myself during a game? Once you know your cues, you can interrupt them before they wreck your focus, confidence, or performance. So think about that. Know yourself. When I start with any athlete, the first phase of my system is the mental gut check, right? Where are you? Where have you been? What have you done to fix it? What have you felt? The good, the bad, the ugly, all right off the top. I got to know. Lay it all out. It takes a while to figure it out now. I mean, you got to really dive into what's affecting you. And it ultimately starts with what you think, how you're thinking, right? If I compare this now to where I am as a business owner, trader, investor, speaking of, I should probably check the market. No doubt the thought pops up, you're not good enough. What are you doing? You're wasting your time. Nobody cares. That's tough. It's really tough. But at the same time, it's part of my defense mechanism to find comfort. So I know that. I know in myself what it looks like for me and what that turns into. Some laziness, just what's the point? And that's why we have to choose discomfort. I love talking about discomfort. There we go. I needed a couple red bars. There we go. All right. Sorry, I'm closing out some trades. I trade options. I like them because they're time bound. The probability's there. No guesswork. It's pretty cool. Sorry. All right. So, yeah, definitely love Andrew Simpson. Crucial Conversations. I haven't even read this one yet. Some of them you can just find books or common highlights. I haven't read this one. I'm gonna discard that one. Not feeling it. All right, let's go through some more. I want to show you my breakdown of my highlights. Here's all my books. Okay. These are books that, okay. So these are books that I've literally highlighted from. The supplemental books are books that I haven't physically read, or maybe I have, but I just wanted to add them to get like popular quotes from it, right? So, sorry, I really just need to close these trades out real quick. Note from a trader, from a day trader, swing trader, options trader: take the profit. Take the profit. Do not let it sit around. Okay. But this is looking really good. All right, let's go. Let's close. I use Charles Schwab and Thinkorswim. Trail stop. $2. Okay. Close that. That's for Monday. I'll come back to that after. All right, sorry. So these are books that I have in my Kindle. One of the first books that I got into when I was learning the sports psych world and mental performance. Oh, wow. Sorry, my screen's really off. Let me change this. All right. There we go. Reset it. Beautiful. Sorry, I'm still learning this OBS stuff. Look at that. All right, so like I said, these are all books that are in my library. And the first one that I really got into that just blew me away is Changing Your Story, Bill Bessick. Okay. When you figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it, okay, you have to like take the cheat code and find people that have literally done what you want to do and like piggyback off of them. It's that simple. Like I can't even tell you how simple this is. So I'm looking up like, okay, who are the top, who are the top sports psychologists in the world, right? And right away, Bill Bessick comes up, and like all of his interviews, everything. Oh, what are you doing, camera? And the first interview I see of him is with the Mulligan brothers, right? So the Mulligan brothers had this awesome podcast, and they bring him on, and just like, you know, legendary sports psychologist Bill Bessick. And sorry, hold on. How do I? There we go. Deactivate and activate. So they bring him on, and it's like a 2-hour interview, and like so many clips went viral from him talking about just like his legacy, what he's done, what he's built. And so I immediately got his book. I mean, the first book, one of the best ones as a team coach and a sports coach, was it was One Goal, right? Mostly about soccer, building a championship team, building a championship culture. But Changing Your Story was awesome. 20 life lessons from across his whole career. So I'm going to go through a couple of them. Responsibility means doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. It means being where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. It means doing what you say you're going to do and doing right by yourself and by others. That's it. Okay. It's just little things like this, talking about responsibility, talking about commitment, talking about changing your story. And the whole theme of changing your story is reframing, right? It's reframing it into finding the most positive solution out of any adversity. That's what it comes down to. And he's incredible. All right, so he talks about stories. He was with Man U forever. But when, you know, he writes about the specific stories of the Olympians, the champions he's coached, he goes into their work ethic, everything they've done. So here's when he's talking about discipline, right? Let's do the excuses first. Even when excuses are plentiful and blaming others would be easier, I still took responsibility. I had learned that although sometimes you cannot choose the situation you find yourself in, bad things will happen in life, you can always choose your response. And there you get the event plus response equals outcome. Look, you can make excuses as much as you want. You can blame somebody else as much as you want. But when you are accountable, take responsibility. Number one, you'll make Jocko Willink very proud. Extreme ownership. And number two, I mean, what good is it going to do to make the excuse and to just blame somebody else and complain? Does nothing. So here he talks about self-discipline. It's not easy, and ask people to move from being comfortable, avoiding responsibility and blaming others, to the uncomfortable, take responsibility and accept accountability. Now, I love psychology. I love neuroscience. So Huberman talks about, you know, in your mind, you have a specific in your mind, you have a very specific part of your brain called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, the AMCC, where essentially when you do uncomfortable things often that are, you know, I'm not going to say painful, but mentally painful, all the things, it'll train your brain to almost crave it, because the dopamine flood after you do it, after you get the task done, is incredible. That's one of my favorite things to talk about too. Resilience training, cold plunge, sauna, all the things. And, you know, Bill's big thing too, when a client or an athlete walked into his office, he said, look, I'm going to start you with 3 questions that I ask everybody. What do you want? How badly do you want it? And how much are you willing to suffer? And if you think about that, if an elite athlete walked into his office, and let's say right now, I'm thinking of Drew Brees, okay, because he just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Drew Brees walks in and says, I want to be the best. I want it more than anything. And I'll take whatever suffering I need to have to get in to actually become what it takes. Now, that doesn't mean go work out for 20 hours and run 100 miles every day. The suffering really is mental. It comes from boredom, fighting the boredom, right? He says, I'm not worried about training. Everybody's going to train physically. He said, how are you going to be able to handle and suffer the boredom of journaling every day, of writing down your wins every day, of checking yourself when you're overly emotional, and backtrack your diet, your sleep, your warm-up routine, everything that got you there? What is that going to take in terms of you having self-discipline and you being able to attack the process, right? So when you think about suffering, it's boredom. When I gave a talk at a quarterback camp about a month ago, quarterback had a great question. What's the common trait you see the athletes you work with when they start with you versus when they leave? I said, the common trait is that they're always playing not to lose. They're competing and just playing not to lose. But what I try to instill and teach them and make suggestions and hold them accountable to it is for them to not only play to win, but be okay with being bored. Accept the boring process. Accept that boring works. And that's inspired from Bill, because, you think, how much are you willing to suffer for what you want in life and those intense, kind of scary, big, hairy, audacious goals. And suffering is going to come from saying no, from turning down the party, turning down the things with friends that don't want to help your goals. And it's going to be painful. But ultimately, will it be worth it? It's up to you. As with every hero's journey, I mean, look at this. It doesn't get better than this now. As with every hero's journey, our movement to a better life begins with showing up. That doesn't mean we have to smile or slay all the demons. It's not easy. It does mean we must face up to, make peace with, and find an honest and open way to live with them. When we show up fully, even the most demons usually back down. Whew. Man. Incredible. It's not about being completely fearless. It's about understanding that the fears are there, but we're not going to let them affect our performance, right? So again, read why. So what I do, all of my notes, all of my highlights, they're all on my phone. It randomizes what I do, what I get to see every day, like a scrolling feed. Like, I don't look at TikTok and YouTube shorts and all that. It's annoying. But when I get on and check out my feed, then I start to gather, remember books that I've gotten into. Now, here's the cool part too. I can go to chat up here. Okay. So everybody's got their own AI engine right now, right? Okay. I can chat with my notes. So let's see if this will work. How would a college quarterback get over his fear of failure and get back to self-discipline and building confidence? Of course. Okay, so now it's going to chat with my notes. So right away, based on what I've highlighted, what I've noted, what resonated with me, Number one, get this out the way. Shift from outcome to process. Okay, when a player is afraid of making a mistake, they're usually worrying about the final result or external expectations, like losing the game or letting people down. That's the big one. I don't want to let people down. Okay, cool. Recognize and rewrite your self-talk. Fear manifests as a destructive internal voice whispering that the player isn't good enough or that a failure will be permanent. Build confidence through visualization and action. Piggyback off the success you've had before. See your highlight tape. Have a real actual highlight tape, right? Build it out. Why not? Redefine failure. Fear tells a player that a setback is permanent and defines their worth. To break free, a quarterback must adopt the mindset that every setback, loss, or failure is only temporary. 5, focus on what can be controlled. And remember, this is so cool because this is all things that I've read before and that have resonated with me before. So I can literally just click the link and it'll take me to the highlight. And that was from Changing Your Story, right? As legendary coaching notes suggest, it's vital to separate out the things you can't control and park them, get them out of the way, bringing total focus back to the physical and mental elements they can directly impact. So, pretty cool. Highly suggest Readwise. And also, it gives me a chance to put my phone down, right? I can read these on my Kindle, on my phone, on the Kindle app, or if I had an iPad like I used to, but there's a lot of distractions there. So, yeah, I would highly recommend getting a Kindle because, like I said, you can download all of your books, Kindle, library, everything you need. I think it even does like audiobooks, so you could plug your headphones in and go. But the biggest part is I can leave my phone somewhere. I can turn the phone off, put it away, and dive into the Kindle for a couple hours, knock out some chapters. And this is a cool trick I learned from Dan Coe as well. You don't have to read one book start to finish every time. Like, keep it fresh. Like, I'll read a chapter at a time of like 5 different books. It's not going to mess me up. I'm not going to forget what's going because I'm doing it every day. But I'm constantly just going through the chapters, learning, reading like that. And then I try to make sure I do some fiction here and there too, just to keep it fresh. So that's one way to do it too. All right, so 11:25. All right, I'm gonna hop off here, but first, got to take you to the community, show you what's here. So this is my Fearless Athletes community. I'm actually going to reset. Okay, let's build this out. Okay, so this is on school. This is my school community. Okay, this is your chance to be a founding member, right? Because I'm slowly building this out. Why did that shift on me? Look at that. It's pretty cool. Let me minimize this. So, Fearless Athletes. I want competitive athletes who want to stop overthinking and finally perform like they do in practice. Okay, because let's be straight. Practice is easier, but we've got to make that different. We've got to change that a little bit. So we do a weekly call right off the bat. When you get on, you get a strategy call with me. Okay, and then boom, you hop into the classroom. go into the foundation course, start here, kind of just taking you through everything. Foundation course, playbooks, all the good stuff. So hopefully giving you enough resources to really kick off your mental game. It's all free, so why not? So check out Fearless Athletes. Once we get to 100 members, we're going to start the giveaways. We're going to start doing some cool stuff on the live calls. So check it out. Link in description. I'm going to end the live stream, and this was fun. I'll do it next time again. This is pretty cool. A lot easier than filming and editing and doing all the things. So, all right, peace.